They were the rulers of the galaxy. Among countless ancient species, only they had unlocked extraordinary telepathic powers. The origins of these abilities were shrouded in mystery. Historical records clearly showed that they did not possess these powers before their ventures into space. Could it have been radiation, a virus, a genetic mutation, or an unknown energy pulse? No one knew, and ultimately, it didn't matter. They had these powers, and with them, they dominated half the galaxy. A single ship with a powerful telepath on board was sufficient to subjugate an entire species. For the past 2,000 years, they had leapt from system to system, expanding their empire, civilization by civilization. The next target on their list was a small, primitive planet in this system. 4 telepath masters were assigned to this mission. Zorth was one of them. It was routine. These wretched beings would be in for a brief shock before their minds were enslaved to the Empire. Zorth was a level 10 telepath, one of the elite few. There were fewer than 100 of his caliber in the entire Empire, and he prided himself on his superiority. His powers enabled him to control billions of minds across an entire solar system. He had done it many times before. When he reached out, he felt the essence of sentient beings twisting their neural pathways and chemical signals into unwavering loyalty to the Empire. Second, sitting comfortably in his chair, Zorth began his work. After a few moments, he realized something was amiss. He couldn't sense anything. There was only silence. Scan the planet, he ordered the pilot. Opening his eyes, the pilot responded. It appears to be empty. After a few seconds, the pilot continued. No, sir. Scans confirmed billions of sentient beings on this planet. They've even developed a level 5 civilization, though they only recently advanced from level 4. Zorth frowned. This had to be an error. Normally, he would be overwhelmed with mental echoes, but now there was nothing. This had never happened before. Move the ship closer, he commanded. The pilot complied, and the ship accelerated from the middle of the solar system toward its star. After several hours, they reached the moon of the target planet. They were still at a safe distance, undetectable by the planet's primitive technology. Zorth tried again, focusing all his will and concentration on connecting with the planet's minds. But he felt nothing. After a minute, he collapsed from the effort. The pilot turned from his seat. Are you all right, sir? This is highly unusual. Perhaps we should. Silence, Zorth roared. He would not return to the Empire in disgrace. He would not be the first telepath master to fail in converting a species. Move us into the atmosphere, he commanded. But, sir, the pilot began. But Zorth cut him off, using his telepathic abilities on the young pilot. This was technically forbidden and frowned upon by his species, but he could erase the pilot's memories later. The pilot's mental defenses crumbled in an instant. Closer, Zorth ordered. The ship entered the atmosphere. Zorth tried again, summoning all his power and experience to connect with the natives. He attempted to localize their mental echoes, channeling more and more of his strength. The strain was immense. Closer, he whispered, trembling. The ship descended into the lower atmosphere, but still, Zorth felt nothing. Enraged, he pushed beyond his limits, ignoring the searing pain and fatigue. Then it happened. He lost control of the immense power he had channeled. An unintended telekinetic burst killed the pilot and took a gaping hole in the ship. It plummeted violently towards the ground. When Zorth awoke, he was gravely injured. Minutes later, he heard a primitive language and saw native creatures approaching through the breach he had created. Zorth smiled. All was not lost. He would take control of these creatures, recover, and once he had conquered the planet, repair his ship and return to the Empire. Just a minor setback, but when he tried to control the creatures, he felt nothing. There were no mental echoes, no thoughts, no emotions. It was as if they didn't exist. Horrified, Zorth realized that while these beings were sentient, their brains were so primitive they were immune to his telepathic powers. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't connect. As he slipped into unconsciousness, he thought to himself, this must be the simplest species in the galaxy. Not far from the crash site was an urban center. Visitors were greeted with a billboard that read, "Welcome to Roswell." When Zorth came to, he found himself in a primitive holding cell. The walls were metallic but crudely fashioned by his standards. He tried once more to reach out with his mind, attempting to control the guards. He could hear shuffling outside, but it was useless. Their minds were like blank slates, impenetrable to his advanced abilities. He had never encountered anything like it. The door to his cell creaked open, and a group of the native creatures entered. They were covered in basic protective gear and wielded primitive weapons. One of them, who seemed to be the leader, spoke in their garbled language. Zorth couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. Interrogation. The leader gestured, and a device was brought in, a makeshift translator. After some adjustments, it began to sputter out words in Zorth's tongue. "Who are you? Why have you come here?" the leader demanded. Zorth sneered. "I am Zorth, telepath master of the Empire. I came to bring your primitive world under our control. But it seems you possess an unexpected resistance." The leader exchanged a look with his companions, a mix of curiosity and concern on their faces. "You will tell us more about this empire of yours," he said. Zorth's pride and anger flared. "You think you can demand answers from me? You are nothing but insects to be crushed under the heel of the Empire." The leader stepped closer. "We may be primitive by your standards, but we have something you lack. Resilience." Zorth finished, realizing that they were right. The leader nodded. "Now tell us about your empire." Zorth realized he had no choice but to cooperate, at least for now. "The Empire spans half the galaxy," he began reluctantly. "Our telepathic abilities allow us to control other species, bending them to our will. We have brought countless worlds under our rule, creating a vast interconnected dominion." The leader listened intently. "And yet you failed to control us. Why?" Zorth frowned. "Your minds. They are unlike any other I've encountered. Crude, yet somehow impervious to telepathic manipulation. It is both perplexing and infuriating." The leader seemed to ponder this. "Perhaps it is our simplicity that protects us, or perhaps we have a strength you cannot comprehend. Either way, your empire will not find easy conquest here." Zorth laughed bitterly. "You speak of strength, yet you have no idea of the power the Empire wields. Even if you resist my telepathy, there are countless other ways to break a species." The leader's expression hardened. "We will see about that. For now, you are our prisoner. We will study you and learn from you. Perhaps we can find a way to turn your powers against you." Days turned into weeks as Zorth languished in his cell. The natives, who he learned called themselves humans, probed him with questions and subjected him to various tests. Despite his attempts to resist, he couldn't help but be impressed by their tenacity and ingenuity. One day, the leader returned with a new question. "Tell us about your empire's weaknesses," the leader said. Zorth hesitated. "Why should I tell you anything? What do I gain from this?" The leader's eyes were cold. "You gain a chance at survival. Cooperate, and we may consider sparing you. Resist, and you will face the full extent of our resilience." Weakened and defeated, Zorth began to speak. "The Empire's strength lies in its telepaths, the elite like myself who can control entire civilizations. But we are few, and our powers have limits. Without us, the Empire is vulnerable." The leader nodded. "And how can we exploit these limits?" Zorth's mind raced. He was betraying his people, but he saw no other option. "Disrupt our concentration. Overwhelm us with noise or conflicting signals. We rely on focus to maintain control. Break that focus, and you can break our hold." The leader smiled grimly. "Thank you, Zorth. You may have just given us the key to resisting your empire." As the humans left him alone in his cell, Zorth couldn't help but feel a strange mixture of hope and despair. He had given them the means to fight back, but at what cost? He could only wait and see if the human resilience would be enough to challenge the might of the Empire. Far from the crash site, the humans began to prepare. They spread the knowledge Zorth had unwittingly provided, and slowly a plan to resist the Empire took shape. They would not go quietly into subjugation. They would fight with every ounce of their primitive strength. And so, the stage was set for a new chapter in the galaxy's history. One where the so-called masters of the universe would face an unexpected and formidable challenge from a small, determined world called Earth.